prepare for a golf tournament?
Well, I hit balls maybe 20 minutes, putt a little bit, smoke 4 or 5 cigarettes, drink 3 Diet Cokes, and go to the first tee. Some days I won't even go to the range.
Yeah, no, you won't. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. It's the Tuesday edition of the Daily Puck Drop. Welcome into the program today. We'll talk a little Mariners. We got a lot of baseball. Jim Duquette, MLB Network Radio, his weekly appearance. Also, Danny Kelly talking NFL draft. We continue to count down the NFL draft. Our NFL draft coverage is brought to you by Georgetown Brewery. Also, John Canzano stopping by today on the old program. Get his thoughts on last night's national championship game. And then, and I think a topic that will be, I mean, it has sports. There is a loose sports connection. He wrote just a beautiful piece today. I don't know if I can get through it without probably tearing up. And it's basically, you know, what would you would do, we all would do if you have kids, anything for them. And just a real emotional piece that he wrote yesterday. I haven't if you're watching the stream, that's a bad hair day. I'm not really sure what's going on with the mane here. Welcome in. We're in the Limback Lumber Studios, as we are every day here on the Daily Puck Drop. Contractors, they got free deliveries, everything from whole house packages to homeowner DIY projects, the largest stock moldings, by the way, in the Northwest. Old school service. They've been doing it since 1930. Give Limback Lumber a call, 206-782-3487. Visit them online at limbacklumber.com. Hey, Mark, Matt, Paul, can you build a roof at Loyal Heights Community Center today? Got a baseball game tonight in the pouring rain. Build a roof for us, because my God, it is awful. It is. I can't believe we're going to play a game tonight. This is terrible. We're going to play baseball in this crap tonight. It is awful, miserable. But whatever. Everybody's got to deal with it. So away we go. All right. You can always follow the show on social media as well. Puck Sports on X and also on Blue Sky, Puck_Sports on TikTok and all that kind of stuff. And, of course, you can always find everything up at pucksports.com, including our Puck the Picker Major Golf Pool Challenge. It's up there. It is back. Go sign up right now, Puck the Picker Majors Pool. Go to the website, pucksports.com at the top. It will take you to the website where to sign up. Get your picks in. We just get them in before Wednesday at midnight, all right? The deadline will push into Thursday morning, but just get them in. And I would strongly suggest, if you want to win the prize packages, which are incredible. First place is a trip to Gamble Sands Golf Course, 1-night stay, 2 rounds of golf for 2. Second place is a foursome at Fairwood Golf and Country Club. Third place is a foursome at Mill Creek Country Club. By the way, the first 3 prizes, I'll tell you this. You find me another radio station that has a better prize package than that. I'll tell you that second place, we're not giving away a fucking sleeve of balls. Okay? That's what we're not giving away. A foursome at Fairwood Golf and Country Club. Third place is a foursome at Mill Creek Country Club. And fourth place is a foursome at one of Troon's Seattle premier golf courses around the area. Of course, you know them all. Inner Bay, West Seattle, Jaxson, which is now Bill Wright. Or excuse me, Jaxson is the same. Jefferson now is been renamed Bill Wright Golf Course. Plus an hour-long top tracer session at one of those fabulous courses. So go sign up today, pucksports.com. Get all the information there and sign up. And get in early, because you don't want to be behind the 8 ball right now. Because if you don't sign up for the first tournament, because it's a season-long contest where you pick 2 golfers in every major. If you're behind at the Masters, you're behind at the PGA Championship, U.S. Open Championship. Get your picks in before the Masters. 2 golfers for every major. 2 new golfers for every single major. So get in your selections now. All right, quickly here on the Mariners. They survived last night, 4-3 win. Now they played 5 games this season in which they've been in 1-run games. They're 3-2 on the season. Some positives, I think, from the game last night. Well, clearly Ryan Bliss with a 2-run home run. Who, when we were in spring training, Ryan Bliss was hitting the ball all over the place. I mean, he was fantastic. And his defense has been better than than I thought it was going to be. And I'm going to piggyback on what the scout said. Of course, our weekly visit with the scout, who's been covering baseball for 30-plus years, currently works for a Major League Baseball organization, told us, a few weeks ago that, hey, he's actually pretty good at second base. That his issues in the minors is when he was playing at shortstop. And he's been great. I think he's been great at second base. I don't think he hasn't done anything that I think would keep you or give you any pause or reservation of him playing over there. Polanco continues to deliver. Good for him. He's obviously moving forward is going to be the DH of this team. And it's a wise move. I mean, already he can't really play third base, so move him over there. And right now, his bat is playing. I mean, the guy is hitting .417. Had the go-ahead 2-run double last night for them to get the victory. 10 RBIs on the season. Logan Gilbert was great last night. Gave up the solo shot there to Altuve. The defense was good, minus the error early in the game and then the wild pitch by Santos. But I mean, JP's play at the ninth inning, come on, and should not go unnoticed. It's not just the play from JP, but the effort there from Tellez to pick that ball, stretch out, and get that. And then also the play there by Julio in the eighth inning. Again, coming up there, catching that line drive ball to center field and keeping Will Myers over there at third base. Just a great defensive play there. Great throw home there by Julio. I guess if you look at the Mariners offensively right now, there's a lot more negative. Let me just give you, and your people are going to be surprised by this one. Let me just give you the two pros right now. Just two little things that at least stand out to me, because then I'm going to give you the other one, the negatives of it. Positive for the M's right now, just the positive. Third most walks in baseball right now. Okay? I mean, I like a good walk. I mean, I prefer hits. We all prefer hits. But just third most walks in baseball right now. And currently, it's still not great, and it needs to get better, but at least they're not dead last anymore. They're 16th in strikeouts. So they've cleaned that up a bit. Normally, they would be dead last in that category. They're not dead last anymore. Hang the banner for them. Now, that's the positives. And I do believe if that continues, things for this offense could turn around for them. At least it's a little bit light at the end of the tunnel for them offensively. Now the glass half empty. They continue to be a team that it drives me nuts in that ballpark, and it drives me nuts with their superstar player that they don't hit more doubles. They're dead last in Major League Baseball in doubles, and it just feels like they have been dead last in that for a decade. They are dead last also in their average with runners in scoring position and OPS with runners in scoring position. Now, I think they're middle of the pack as well. Well, no, they're more than middle of the pack. 6th in home runs. So they're not striking out as much as they did last year. They're walking, they're hitting home runs, but they're not hitting with runners in scoring position. So it's a feast or famine type thing. Do or die for these guys offensively, which is annoying to watch. But again, good win last night. Luis Castillo, the good one on the mound tonight. We'll see if they can take game 2 of this series with the Houston Astros. We got Jim Duquette coming up here momentarily. Quickly, the Houston collapse last night. Man, I felt so bad for Kelvin Sampson and those guys. Even though I had money on Florida and I needed Florida to win my bracket, fine, whatever. But I'll be honest with you, deep down I was rooting for Houston just because of Kelvin Sampson's connection to Washington State. They played such a great game of basketball. They were so physical. They just did everything right. They were rebounding. They were passing the ball. And this is a game in which you don't want to blame officials, but officials have such a fingerprints all over that game last night. They went from allowing things to be played, and it not dirty, not out of hand, but just physical basketball within the rules in the first half, which clearly would benefit Houston and how they play. Look at how Clayton's game, how he was god-awful in the first half. Really god-awful for the entire game minus the last, 13 minutes of it. He looked disinterested, didn't want to play. It looked like he didn't want to play. But then the officials decided, no, we're gonna start calling it differently in the second half. And I just think that greatly affected Houston. That was the wrong decision. I don't understand people who thought that was a bad game last night because they didn't, score in the 80s and 90s. I don't know why people can't appreciate a game that's played in the 60s and played with great defensive intensity. And when I say, and that's on both sides. I thought Florida, same way in the first half. Blocking shots, hustling back, tip balls, effort level for both teams, especially Houston in that first half, rebounds, all that kind of stuff. I thought it was a well-played, phenomenal defensive first half. And then the officials decided to become part of the game. And I think ultimately part of that cost Houston the chance to cut down the Nets. But it was a fabulous Final Four. We're going to get into it with Canzano a little bit later. I know people want the Cinderella stories and the mid-majors, but, God, we got 4 number 1 seeds to play in the Final Four, and it was awesome. It just was. Every game was great, and it was a great comeback there by Florida to sit there and not have their A game. Their superstar wasn't good at all. He gets one shot to go. I think it was the drive down the lane, which the scoop shot. He gets fouled. That just kind of felt like it got him going. Keep in mind, I thought it was a great decision by Golden, the head coach of Florida. He clearly could see he couldn't get it going. They were stagnant on offense in that game, and he took a superstar off the floor when they were down by 12. The backups or the reserves and not their superstar, those are the guys that got him back in the game, not Clayton. And then when Clayton came back, they were within, I don't think it was like 4 or 6. Then he started to get it going. I thought it was a really good job, a masterful job there by Golden, because I don't know how many coaches would have pulled their best player off the floor in that situation, especially being down 12 points. All right, we'll catch up with Jim Duquette here momentarily, get his thoughts on all things Major League Baseball, thoughts on where the Mariners are at, Jorge Polanco, and all that in just a second. Geno Smith, I want to touch on this one before we get into all of our guests today. We got Jim Duquette, Danny Kelly, and then John Canzano. And, of course, we wrap up the show with Hey, What the Puck. Geno Smith at a press conference yesterday with the Raiders said, quote, "I felt disrespected. Liked my time there and liked all the organization, but I felt disrespected." This is just the playbook for every one of these guys, it feels like. I'd like to know how, when they essentially offered a very friendly and similar deal, how in the world you felt disrespected. I'd love to understand that. I'd love to understand an organization, and now I know Pete Carroll's a part of it, but so is John Schneider. They gave you a second chance on your career. How now you feel disrespected. Keep in mind, go look at the real fine details of the contract. The Pro Football Talk did this. He essentially got a 1-year deal with the Raiders. His money in year 2 is $18 million. You think in 2026 he's going to play for $18.5 million, or do you think he's going to want to go back and renegotiate and get more money? And the Raiders at that point doesn't prevent them from sitting there drafting a guy here at 6 if they want Sanders to draft his replacement after a year. So, hey, I felt disrespected. The Raiders didn't even want you. They weren't even your first choice. You weren't even their first choice. Matt Stafford was their first choice. And then, and lo and behold, they give you a deal, which is basically what the Seahawks gave Sam Darnold in year 1. Yes, you get more insurances in year 2. Not much. $18.5 million. Raiders can just say, no, we're good. We'll eat it. We'll say goodbye. So I don't, the whole I feel disrespected card is amazing to me. I liked Geno. I thought he was serviceable, but the deal that the Seahawks offered him was fair. And I think the Raiders, what they've offered him is fair because they've just signaled to you, we're not really all that committed to you heading into this year. So, all right, just wanted to get that off there, the whole I feel disrespected card. Let's talk a little baseball. He is our GM. We love having him on every single week. Why? Because he makes us smarter. Because I'm dumb. That's what I say. Ladies and gentlemen, it is our good friend Jim Duquette, MLB Network Radio, Sirius XM, Channel 89. Follow Jim on social media, Jim Duquette, GM. How are you, sir?
Oh, never feeling disrespected on this show, ever.
You know who is not disrespected? Vlad Guerrero Jr.
Whew.
Did you expect that contract? Is that where you thought he'd land?
Well, I mean, if you went back to like last year, you knew the numbers were jumping up, and he resisted the temptation to sign, a couple different times along the way. And I think, as he got through free agency or got close to free agency, and you saw the Juan Soto contract and what the Jays were offering other like players from outside the organization to try to play there in Toronto. Once he saw they had their money, then he really had the leverage, all the leverage. He and his agent, they did a tremendous job on this one. And no, I didn't expect him to get that kind of money. I did expect him to get, somewhere close to $400 million. I did not expect it to go 500. When I heard they were $50 million apart, I know $50 million sounds like it's a lot, but when you've come this far, you're 450, which is where the Jays were, and he was at 500. I'm like, that's a little over $3 million per year over the term of the contract, which was 14 years. You're like, that's going to get done. Like, so once I saw where the spread was, I'm like, oh, it's getting done. I'm not sure exactly when. Maybe there'll be some deferment, which there wasn't in this deal. I was a little surprised at that too. But the Jays had to do this. They have no choice. Sometimes you have no choice if you want to attract good players to your brand and to your organization in the future. And so I think they did that with this Vladdy deal. It's not going to feel good. As soon as you sign the ink, you're like, oh my God, you break out in hives, buyer's remorse. But they had to do it.
Yeah. I want you to explain that further. I was just going to ask you that. They've been close to so many of these free agents in the past. Why was it so necessary for them to get this one, to get Vlad Guerrero Jr. to sign?
So a big part of the reason that the agents for the players that they were pursuing, or the players themselves, Soto was one of them. Ohtani was another. They were in on the high end guys. But every time they would have a conversation in Toronto, it was like, okay, what's your future look like? Is Vlad Guerrero Jr. going to be here? They couldn't say if he was or not, And so when your star player and the youngest player and one of the best, best in the sport, when you can't tell the incoming free agent if he's going to be there or not, and he's like their one source of protection in the lineup for in those cases, Soto and Ohtani, that hurts your recruiting process right out of the gate. And so, that was their biggest problem, was being able to sell to whoever wanted to sign there. Hey, what is the long-term look of your roster, from 2025 to 2030, let's say, and beyond. And it didn't include Vladdy Jr. until now. And now they can do this, and with a straight face, say, listen, Vladdy's going to be here. We have other younger players here. We're going to try to keep Bo Bichette maybe too, because he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. And I think they'll have a better chance. I'm not saying they can still do it, but, they already got Santander, who's, a quality player and a quality hitter. Like, they'll be able to attract other players. Now, whether they're going to want to pay for another premium guy because they're paying Vladdy, that's a whole different story. I think they could afford it, but we'll have to see what they decide in the finances. But it really hurt their recruiting chances when there was no certainty around Vladdy.
What do you think what kind of bottle did Pete Alonso open up yesterday?
So, he was talking about it too. He was he was almost giddy.
Of course,
watching this signing, right? You could almost see him putting his hands together like he was getting cold and putting them over an open fire, saying, "Okay, here we come. Here's the money." Here's the thing, though, with him: it's 4 years in age difference than Vladdy. So even if the AAV, I think, is like 36 mil, even if Pete's able to get 36 mil, the number of years that he's going to be able to get out of this is, I think, limited. Now, he's off to a terrific start. His career numbers are gaudy. They're large, and but part of the problem, like this year, he had 2 down years going into his free agent, into his free agency. That's hard to get a long-term contract. Plus, a lot of teams went out and got first baseman, so they didn't really have the fit. So, if he has the same type of year that he had 3 years ago and 4 years ago, he drove in 130 plus runs. 22, I think it was 23. It was like 120 runs, very close to that. He's going to get paid. Like, if he's going to hit 40 home runs, he'll get paid. But it's not going to be 14 years. I don't even think it'll be 10. I think, for him, it could be anywhere from 5 or 6 years, something along those lines. That's where, but he'll get the higher AAV, so he'll get his money's worth. I don't think, I don't think he'll get to $200 million personally.
But he certainly will get paid. I was just looking up, guys that had new homes or in new homes now. And if I were the Astros are in town, if I was an Astros fan, I would look at who was recently the AL and NL player of the week. And it's Kyle Tucker with the Cubs, and it's Alex Bregman there with the Red Sox. I mean, Bregman and he's always hitting at Fenway, but he's just off to just an incredible start. OPS is 936. He looks so comfortable there. And Kyle Tucker, I mean, he's got over 1,000 OPS. I mean, he's just murdering the ball in Chicago. I mean, these are two guys that were staples of the Houston Astros and now are having just a great impact on their teams.
Yeah, they are. I think we kind of saw this. You can see it now with Houston. Like, it's not the same offense. And I think there are 10 games. I think 8 they've scored 3 or fewer runs. And Tucker, by the way, he's going to benefit from the Vladdy contract because he's going into his free agency, and he's only 2 years older than Vladdy. So he's the free agent I think is most positively impacted by the Vladdy signing because he's going to go out on the free agent market, I think. But
what do you think that costs, Jim? What do you think? What's his neighborhood?
I think he's going to get if he stays healthy, puts up the numbers. I think he's going to get close to $400 million. I think. Yeah, I mean he's going to end up being one of the highest paid, maybe 5th highest paid player in the sport. I mean, it's I started looking at it too already. Not only do the Cubs need him, and I don't know if the Cubs will pay him, but the Phillies could use him because they'll have some money coming off their books, and he's willing to spend money, that owner. The Nationals are at that point where they're going to start, they did that with Jason Worth way back before when they won the World Series in 19. They had signed Jason Worth, I think it was 16 or something like 2016. There'll be a ton of teams that'll be, I hate saying this, but the Dodgers would be all over him.
Everybody's going to want him. Everybody's going to want him, and everybody's going to need him. I mean, everybody can need him.
No doubt. And that's why the number will go through the roof.
Yeah, he's a special talent for sure. It's interesting to watch a team like the Texas Rangers, right? We are so programmed to watch this baseball team, Jim, just kill you with offense. And then you look at their pitching, you're like, the pitching is what's going to hold them back. And then they flipped the script this year already. Pitching's been good, and then they are not hitting anything. But yet here they are leading the American League West, and you just know eventually guys like Marcus Semien, guys like Bellinger will come around and hit because they haven't done it yet. Seager. They will come around and hit, and it's going to happen. But it's kind of a weird thing to watch them win a different way.
Yeah, I agree. I think, they're one of the teams that I thought was well balanced. I thought their offense was clearly one of the better ones, and I think it will come together here, soon. Again, hard to look at any offense in a 10-day cycle. But I think what surprised me is their pitching. Now they've had some health issues too. Cody Bradford's on the IL. Their young starter Jack Leiter just had to go on the injured list too. But they've had more success so far on the pitching front than I thought. Seeing DeGrom healthy, that's number one, and being able to pitch into the 5th inning or so, 6th inning, and it's only going to get better, I think, with him too. He didn't have quite the command his last start. That he got hit later in the game, but not anything dramatic. Evaldi had the first complete game of the season, right? Under 100 pitches a couple starts ago. So, yeah, I think they're going to be – that's the main competition in the West. I think that, between Houston, Seattle, Texas, those are the teams that will be I think they'll be chasing the Rangers primarily this year.
How fun is it to sit there and watch we'll get to more specifically here on the Mariners in a second, just watching this NL West. I mean, it's just sensational. I mean, it's just unbelievable, all the teams in there.
You got a sense of the West watching the Giants that nobody really spoke much about. Okay, Arizona's better, which they are, and we know the Dodgers, how good you saw the Dodgers. But, and Arizona is fantastic, even though they're not playing great right now. But the team that has surprised everybody right now in baseball, the Giants, and how good that they are. And, their offense is just good enough, and their pitching and their bullpen in particular. It reminds me of the 2010, 2012 Giants where, they had lockdown bullpens, 2014 even. Lockdown bullpens, if they have a lead, 1-run lead, they usually hold it. That's how good those teams were back then. And that's what, the small sample that they've shown so far. But everyone, I had Bob Melvin, their manager, on recently, and they talk about the kind of makeup of the team and how much better kind of just the overall mindset and the chemistry in the clubhouse and the culture that's there that Buster Posey has built. So again, we'll see how it plays out, but they're a surprise team. That West it's really tough.
Let's go to the Mariners here for a quick second. The Jorge Polanco is hitting, Jim.
Yeah.
He's 417. He had the what turned out to be the game-winning 2 RBIs last night.
Yep.
But it appears his time at third base is over. I mean, it all, and we're 11 games into the season. I mean, this was something we talked about before the season. This was going to be a worry. You're switching him over to a new position, and especially with a guy coming off a pretty major knee injury. But it seems like the experimentation, I'm not saying he's never going to play over there again, but it appears to be moving forward limited how much he's going to play at third base.
I think that's the right decision. It's not always easy to take a guy from second, move him to third. Like some guys can do it, but I think when you look at, early on in the season here, even in the spring, when you watch a guy move around, you can kind of tell if it's going to work or not, right? If the hands will work, if the arm works, any of that. Like it's not going to work, I don't think, in this particular situation, which again, I don't think it's a huge surprise, right? Let Dylan Moore play there. Yeah. I think sticking him into more of the DH type of role makes total sense. I'm just trying to look just at how old Polanco is. He looks older. He plays older than he is. He's 31. Yeah. But he moves around like he's 34, 35. Not surprised that they're going to make that swap. And change.
You know what? I mean, it's okay. I mean, I think if he can be in there as a hitter, it just goes to I think frustration from people, Mariner fans, that this was your offseason,
right? Making
him a third baseman when I think a lot of people just knew that that transition was going to be really hard for him, especially coming off the injury.
No doubt. The winter, wasn't very good. We've talked a little bit about that. I mean, Rowdy Tellez was in Solano were their main signings, bringing back Polanco. Like that's all they had. Like, again, we can sit there and bash them, and we will, and we'll do it all year, if they show it. I mean, that's just the reality. But like when other players who were there do it too, like what Justin Turner said, like that's the way the league feels about, what's going on there is, how close they were getting in, how little they spent on offense. And it was a clear need.
Hey, explain this to me. Why do you think the Giants at their park have that net in right field? And I'm not saying, hey, if it wasn't there, that Robles doesn't get hurt. Maybe Robles goes over the wall and then he gets hurt some other way. But it just seemed where that net seemed unnecessary.
It's odd. I didn't realize until I saw the Robles play that the net there extended all the way down to the right field line. They give teams, options to they want it obviously past the both ends of the dugout, the outfield side of both dugouts to protect fans, but they leave it up to the individual organizations how much further they want to extend it, and they usually don't, because first off, the fans don't like it. They don't like that net. They want to be able to catch balls down there, but I mean, it has become a safety issue, even that far down the line, where the ball's rocketing down there off the bat at 110 miles an hour. And, most of the time you're not paying attention. Fans aren't paying attention down there for every pitch. And so it becomes a fan safety issue. And so more teams are extending further down the line. I think that's the main thing on that. It's unfortunate Robles got injured. Like you said, I don't know. I've seen players go over that sidewall, flip over, and end up, with a concussion because their head hit. Like there's a lot of things that can go wrong there. I will say this: I thought it was an unbelievable catch. I have not seen a play like that in a
Great.
long time. That's one of the rare, like, amazing catches. The shame of it was he's going to be out for a while.
Yeah,
but I
mean,
think
it
it's
just
more fan safety to kind of get back to your question.
it just that it was a guy that just everything
Oh,
all out. You know,
all
players
out.
or fans want all out effort by players, and that's what Victor Robles gave him, an all out effort on that play. He's getting it. I think the MRI was yesterday or today. We'll probably find out maybe later today or tomorrow what his true status is. I mean, he's on the IL right now. We'll see how long and the extent of that IL visit will be. Hey, I want to wrap up with this. It's not the most comfortable topic in the world, but I think it's important. I thought the revelation by Jarren Duran, a Red Sox player, and people don't know the story. There's a Netflix docuseries coming out. They followed the Red Sox a year ago, and it's coming out now on Netflix. And one of the things that was revealed in the Netflix episode was Duran, a few years ago, contemplating and tried to kill himself. And he talked about the struggles of just everything, being a ball player and the struggles with failure. But he felt it was important, Jim, to come out and speak on it, because if he thought in his position where he is as a player that he's got a voice, he knows people look up to him, that if he came out and said, hey, I know I'm a ball player, but I know I struggle too, that it could help other people in society. I think it was a real just brave and powerful thing for Jarren Duran to come out and acknowledge and take ownership of.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I mean, it is. I mean, the articles come out. Boston Globe wrote about it recently. The docuseries, like you mentioned, is coming out, I think, today, and you can start to see that. But he talks about it at quite length. And listen, he had a tough upbringing. His dad was really tough on him as a young player. Used to throw a ball at him when he didn't perform well, and he was constantly trying to please him. And that it kind of. I'm still digging in to find out all the details, but I know the family life was difficult growing up for him, and he always viewed himself and never felt that he was worthy enough, and never, kind of as you mentioned, the baseball. There's a lot of failure. He didn't know how to handle it, and he'd had enough. He was that first year, which he was referring to, where he had struggles. The fans there in Boston can be ruthless.
Sure.
They really got on him, on his case about it, and he couldn't deal with it, couldn't handle it. I will say this, and thankfully, he wasn't able. He talks about the detail of how he loaded a rifle and actually pulled the trigger and it didn't go off, and thankfully that didn't happen. And he can now educate people on it. But I will say this: organizations have avenues where you can talk a lot of this stuff out. They have mental health professionals on staffs now. I saw one organization in the spring, they had an office set up where 3 different offices with a full-time group of people just for players and employees. So there are means now. The league takes it serious for sure, as you saw the statements came out from the commissioner and from the Boston Red Sox themselves. But to your point, like Duran, that's pretty brave to be willing to talk about that. Not everybody has. In the NBA, you saw it with Kevin Love and others that have been willing to talk about it. And I think Duran could have a similar impact on the baseball side.
Absolutely. Well said. All right. Next week when we talk, they will finish up their series with the Astros, and they get their first look at the Texas Rangers. So we can evaluate to see where the Mariners are at head to head with the team right now leading the American League West. Jim Duquette with us every single Tuesday talking baseball. And again, you can follow Jim on social media at Jim Duquette, GM, MLB Network Radio, Sirius XM Channel 89. All right. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next Tuesday.
Right. Thanks, Buck. See you.
Yeah, there he is, Jim Duquette with us every single Tuesday talking Major League Baseball. And again, if you don't know the Jarren Duran story, go look it up. It's a docuseries that's coming out following the Red Sox from a year ago, but he released a statement because he knew it was coming out just about his struggles with mental health. He tried to take his life a couple of years ago. he failed at doing it, and then it was a wake-up call for him, and he said, you know what, I'm going to be a force of change here, and I'm going to help other people that are going through similar situations, and I think my status in the game as a professional ball player could help somebody else. So real powerful stuff. All right, let's switch gears from baseball. We talk all things NFL draft, and when we talk all things NFL draft, we drink, folks, and it's all brought to you by our good friends at Georgetown Brewery.
Drink Georgetown Tavern Beer, your new locally brewed domestic-style lager. 4.2% alcohol. Cheap, good, local.
Well, this describes this segment. We keep saying it every time, cheap and local. Sorry, Danny, I'm having a really bad hair day. I don't think I really brushed my hair.
You look nice.
I know, but it's all over the place. Yeah, it's
just be happy you have hair, man.
Yeah, well, there's that, I guess. There's the little battles in life. I've got so much hair. I got nose. I mean, I got so much nose coming out of my so much hair coming out of my nose. It's unbelievable.
Well, you know what?
Jungle in there.
I just truly do not give a shit that you have hair problems. Pal.
I'm sorry, right? Danny. Sorry. sorry, sir.
Complaining to the wrong person, sir.
That's right. My bad. E1 on me. All right. How are we? Draft countdown continues. Couple of weeks away now. It's getting closer.
It's freaking crunch time.
Yeah, it is crunch time.
I don't know. It feels like it's really jumped up on us a little bit here the last couple of weeks. But yeah, we're close. Just booked some travel for Chicago. Going to Chicago for a live show for the Ringer NFL draft show.
Okay, when is that taking place?
That's on Tuesday, the 22nd.
Okay.
It is sold out. So, but
wait a minute, people got to pay to watch you guys do a podcast in front of them?
I know, it's a racket.
Hold on, I got to write this down. People will actually pay for this shit? Oh,
well, they're paid. We pay them.
You pay them.
We pay them to come hype us up, you know?
Yeah, well, as you should. Well, it'd be fun.
Yeah. So that's exciting, and then the draft is right after that. And crazy!
Unbelievable.
Excited to see who these teams take. I'm sick of talking about theoreticals.
I know, and then just all the BS that goes along with it, right?
Yeah.
I saw somebody today, maybe it was, or yesterday, maybe Daniel Jeremiah said, according to all the the scouts, or all the agency talks to, there's going to be 61 first-round picks.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's just all over the place.
I feel like, especially this year, there isn't as much consensus on kind of like who's a first rounder. So I mean, I understand what he's saying though, kind of like,
sure,
there's a whole bunch of people that could be first round picks, and we'll probably be surprised at the last 10 picks or so, some of the guys that the team's picking there.
What if you were looking at this first round?
Mm-hmm.
How many first round grades do you think are out there?
Probably like low teens. Something like that. That's kind of, I feel like that's every year. It depends on who you talk to, of course, but and that's why you see players, you see teams in the late part of the first round, quote unquote, reach on guys. But their argument, their response to that, and I think it's valid, is like, look, we only had 13 first round picks on players, and this was our next highest rated guy. Sometimes, like, when you're picking at the end of the first round, you don't have any first round graded guys on your draft board anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think especially in this class, there's probably a ton of second round grades on guys. Because I think this is a pretty deep class in that respect, where you have, like Daniel Jeremiah was kind of like indicating, 20 to 30 guys that could have, or more, that could have second round grades. And so, there's just going to be a lot of variation among like how teams have these guys graded. It's going to be very interesting.
What is going to surprise you with what Seattle does at 18? What is going to anger you at 18?
That's a great question. I was thinking about this morning. If the Seahawks take Jaxson Dart, I think I might be a little bit annoyed.
I didn't even think about that.
That's the kind of thing where I'm sure I'll talk myself into it after like a few hours, but my initial reaction is going to be just like annoyance. If they take a running back, something like that, I'm going to be probably pretty annoyed. Basically anything that's not like a defensive lineman or an offensive lineman, I think I'm going to be a little bit annoyed, other than, maybe like one of the guys that I still have graded as a top tier guy. If like Tyler Warren falls, or Colson Loveland from Michigan, the tight end, I would be fine with those two guys. But generally speaking, man, can we just get like a meat and potatoes pick and not like try and get too cute with
We
everything?
love meat and potatoes. I'm a big fan of meat and potatoes, always have been. I mean, look at me. It's a body built by meat and potatoes. In fact, maybe this is the episode. This is the meat and potatoes episode.
Hell yeah.
I'm gonna write that down. But let me go back to Jaxson Dart for a second. I hadn't really thought about that at 18, but let's live in a world where Jaxson Dart is the pick at 18. Let's say Jaxson Dart works out.
Right.
Becomes like a starter, 10 plus years, and is a great pick. I mean, I know
That'd
it's
be
going to
great.
be revisionist history. We'll look back and go, well, shit. I mean, that was an obvious great pick there, John Schneider. But but it would make sense because you only committed to Sam Darnold for 1 year.
Sure. And again, like I said, I probably would talk myself into it pretty quickly. But right now, I kind of just see a guy who's more of a second round pick.
Yeah.
More probably a backup in the NFL. He has a chance to become a starter for sure. I don't like to write anybody off because I think, the one thing you learn doing this and writing about the draft and grading guys is like no one knows anything. Like that is kind of the big lesson.
Do you put that on the top of the Ringer NFL draft show? Yes. Hey, quote, no one knows anything.
Yes, I think that's kind of one of my mantras is no one knows anything, especially at the quarterback position. Quarterback, just so many variables, so many things. But of course, you have to have an opinion. You have to form an opinion, and you have to stick with it. And my opinion is Dart looks more like a backup. In terms of he played in an offense at Ole Miss where there's a ton of designed reads. Like he goes to his first read, or he chucks it out of bounds or whatever. I think there's certain tools that you have to like about him, and I like that he's kind of an aggressive passer who will throw with pressure bearing down on him. There's definitely some good things. He's a good athlete. But it's hard to like project what he was doing at Ole Miss into the NFL offense just because there were so many just getting the ball out with his first read basically. And so how does he go and play in the NFL when that's kind of like what he's done in college? So
is that not a common criticism or critique of all these quarterbacks now coming out?
It's a common critique for sure, but I think Ole Miss's offense is like especially egregious with this kind of thing. Okay. So, I think there's a huge amount of projection happening here. And hopefully, I think a lot of people that like him are probably like, look, he's a hard worker. He's got a lot of confidence. He's, willing to throw like in the face of pressure. Like I said, he has a lot of big time throws, goes deep. He's battle tested. He has a lot of starts in college football. So that's great. Like there are definitely things that I think, you look at and you can convince yourself that this is going to work out in the NFL. But I don't know. I'm not super high on him, but I could be wrong because, people are wrong on quarterbacks every single year. It's like the most reliable thing that you can have is people are wrong about the quarterbacks in the NFL draft.
Of course, you could be wrong. I mean, Cam Ward likely is going to be he's going to be the number one overall pick. At least that's what it appears. And then Shedeur Sanders, we think is going to be the second one after that. They could be terrible. They could be absolute failures. And then Jaxson Dart or Tyler Shuck or Kyle McCord or Will Howard. One of those guys are the top quarterbacks out of this draft.
Right. And I mean, I'm just thinking back. Remember when the Eagles drafted Jalen Hurts and everyone was like, what a waste of a pick. You already have a starting quarterback. This is ridiculous. You took him in the second round and, now he's the Super Bowl MVP. So, I approach draft coverage and especially at the quarterback position kind of with an open mind. Mm-hmm. So I want to keep an open mind on Jaxson Dart, but I'm just telling you the truth. My honest reaction if they picked him at 18 would be to roll my eyes and hope for the best.
You want meat and potatoes. You want Americana. You want a guy that when he's on the field is blowing snot out of his nose, and it doesn't matter that it gets on his uniform. Doesn't care. You want a guy that tapes up his fingers. That has. You want Gray Zabel. Just
all
say
the knuckles. Tapes up every single knuckle.
Every knuckle.
Oh yeah.
Okay, you want Gray Zabel, don't you?
I do.
Yeah,
I do. I want any offensive lineman, really.
Yeah,
any of the good ones. I'll take a defensive lineman. I'll take a pass rusher. I'll take a guy like that. I don't know. It's just, again, the lesson with the Eagles isn't necessarily take a second round quarterback and turn him into an MVP. It's keep, investing in the trenches, have very, very good offensive line and a very, very good defensive line. And you can do a lot of things off of that. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like just keep building in the trenches and it's going to help everybody else on your team.
And, it's interesting to hear them talk. I think Mike McDonald has said this recently. Hey, I don't want to get caught up in drafting for need.
Yeah.
We have to have this philosophy of drafting the best player available. And I get that. I mean, listen, there's a player at 18. If you value that player at 18, you're trying to draft a starter that's with you for a decade at 18. It's certainly in the first round, probably in the first couple rounds. And so if they view a wide receiver or something else that's not offensive line, I get the thinking behind it, but there is also a part of me, and at 18, there's got to be a good offensive lineman there.
I have to think so, yeah.
Maybe you overdraft a little bit, but it can't be that much you're overdrafting a guy.
No, and it's hard because I think people are kind of all over the place on these linemen as well. Like I've just been kind of perusing rankings and perusing, scouting reports of where people have these offensive linemen. It is kind of all over the place. So there's certainly a chance that the guys they like are gone by the time they get to 18. But that being said, you got, Josh Connerly from Oregon, who I think is really interesting. Donovan Jaxson from Ohio State. You've got Josh Simmons from Ohio State, who's falling, I think, in the eyes of some people because he's coming off of a patellar injury to his knee, which is always a really serious injury. Calvin Banks from Texas, I think, is maybe not going to go quite as high as everybody thinks. Then again, last year I did not expect 14 straight offensive players to start the draft. And then your first defensive player didn't come off until it was Leatu Latu to the Colts.
Yeah, right.
So that was, I think, shocking and weird. And so, basically you have to, again, anything could happen on draft night. This is always get annoyed when people are complaining about mock drafts being unrealistic. I'm like, have you ever watched the draft? It's so weird every year. Yeah. Nothing makes sense. There's so many shocking moves teams make in the draft.
I love mock drafts. Yeah. I love all of it. Not just so you can sit there, old takes exposed later and go, "Oh, this is an idiot. You thought this guy was going to go 5." I just love talking about it. I love the discourse. It's fun.
Scenarios, man.
Yes.
Come on.
It's like I love still to this day. Even though we've ruined one of the greatest sports ever in college football, I love getting a magazine, the preseason top 25. Yeah, it's stupid, but I like it. It's fun. I'd like to see where America's team, the Cougs, are not in the top 25.
Totally.
How far are we down?
I like doing mock drafts because it's fun to kind of, and again, the draft is, I always can make this comparison. It's kind of like a game of chess where there's a million permutations that could happen based on every single move at every single spot. And there's so many potential scenarios that I just think it's fun to explore. What would happen if, Shedeur Sanders didn't get taken at number 2 and it actually fell, into the teens or later? What would happen if, the Patriots want to trade back out of that spot to get more, draft capital? I think there's just a lot of fun, different things that could happen. And like I said, every year, I feel like we're sitting there on Thursday night, draft night, and something wild is happening. Last year was Michael Penix being taken by the Falcons. No one thought that. I don't remember hardly anyone saying that, if anyone, saying that the Falcons were going to take a quarterback, after signing Kirk Cousins to $100 million guaranteed. So weird stuff happens and it's fun and it's exciting and let's embrace that.
It's why when I see so many people talk, and you and I have done this. I've done this with Dane Brugler. We've done this with Rob Staten, all of our NFL guys and draft guys, even Michael Sean Dugar. We've talked a lot about Gray Zabel, so I just know they're not going to take Gray Zabel.
I know that's
not going to. It's not going to fucking happen. And I've built myself. I mean, I've been such a Gray Zabel fan now. I'm buying North Dakota State stuff. I mean,
I got all the merch.
I'm watching video of
season ticket holder.
Oh, and I'm learning to pronounce bison.
You're moving to where are they? North Dakota?
Fargo. I've been to Fargo. It's a fabulous town, by the way.
There we go.
Great town. Honestly, one of the all-time great towns. Now, in the winter, I don't think I'd want to be there.
Right.
Hey,
right.
Summer, not bad.
Sure. Why not?
But I'm all in. I'm all in on this guy. And then they're going to draft, the Campbell linebacker.
Which is totally fine with me.
I know it's fine.
I like that. Yeah.
But it's like.
But yes, you're right. It always is that every year we get our hearts set on somebody and then they pass up on that guy. And, and sometimes, look, we're right. I think a couple of years ago, the one that always sticks in everyone's craw is Creed Humphrey.
Oh,
the Seahawks passed up on Creed Humphrey. I think it was early in the second round. And everyone was like, man, wanted Creed Humphrey there. And then lo and behold, he turns into like a Pro Bowl player. So
who did they get instead?
Man, was that the year they took Kenneth Walker? I'm trying to remember now.
No, I think it's
I'll look it up while we talk.
Hold on, I just did this the other day. God, this is when I'm getting old. I think.
Oh no, was it Dwayne
D-
Eskridge? Oh
yeah,
no.
With D Eskridge.
Yeah.
D Eskridge or Dwayne Eskridge?
Well, his name's Dwayne, but I think he went by D after that.
Yeah, it was Eskridge.
Yeah. That's rough. God, that's rough.
Oh,
Because Eskridge played what, like
brutal
7 meaningful snaps for the Seahawks? I don't
Yeah.
know, something like that.
I don't even. Is he out of the? I think he's out of the league.
No, he's on the Dolphins now. He's like a
perfect.
backup, like a fourth receiver. I remember at the time too. This is like a classic example of the draft, and no one knows anything. I remember at the time when the Seahawks took Eskridge. If I'm being honest, I was in my little Seahawks group chat with Jackson Bevins and Mina Kimes.
Excited, weren't you?
And I was just pissed. No, I was like, this is a terrible pick. And then I was really mad. There were so many guys that I liked more at that spot. I'm sure none of those guys turned out either. But then the Rams right after that took Tutu Atwell, and the report that and coming out, everyone was talking about how the Rams really wanted Eskridge. And so they panicked and took Atwell instead. And as it happens, Atwell just signed a $10 million deal with the Rams to be like their wide receiver 3. Not like a great player, but he's turning into a productive guy that they can utilize, and he's a starter. Meanwhile, Eskridge, like, again, how many catches did he have with the Seahawks? Like, I can't remember a single one. I don't know.
10. I'm going to set it at 10. You think he had
here.
more? Hold on. Don't look it up. Hold on.
I think he probably had like 20 catches over 3 years.
No. Are you serious? Hold on. D. Eskridge stats. I'm going to set the over-under at 10, and I'm going to take the under.
He had, do you want me to tell you? He had 17 catches
Son of a bitch.
in 3 seasons with the Hawks.
Did he really?
That was 24 games.
Okay.
So he had less than a catch a game.
Oh, pretty solid.
One
Solid.
touchdown.
Good. I can't even
Second
remember
round
that
pick.
touchdown.
Anyway, Creed Humphrey, still mad about it. People don't forget.
That's what I'm saying when it comes to this draft, because I'm not going to be surprised. And I do think they may take a wide receiver at 18.
Yeah. Which
Like,
Which one? Do you have one that you don't want them to take?
That I don't want them to take?
Yeah, because that means they will take him.
No, I don't think there's one I
That's
don't.
good, that's good.
I don't think there's one I don't want them to take. But I just got a feeling they're gonna take a wide receiver at 18.
I can see that.
I can see that. I think that's going to be the one that will maybe not necessarily surprise people, but I think it's going to be, well, really, that's what we need, a wide receiver. Don't we need people to block? And I think it's going to lead, and whoever they take may turn out to be a fine wide receiver. But if they do take a wide receiver, I think for a lot of the fans, you're just going to see people explode on draft night.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to say it again because I'm a huge Ted McMillan fan. But if Ted McMillan falls to that spot, I'm doing backflips. And
You've talked about him a lot. I'm
doing backflips. I love that. And I remember the exact same feeling when Jaxson Smith-Njigba fell to the Seahawks a couple of years ago. And I don't think many people expected that. Most mock drafts, he was going a little bit earlier. I was shocked. I remember at the time being, sort of like, oh God, we're a couple of picks away, and then Jigba's still on the board, and then when we took him, I was so excited. So I'm really hoping for something like that. That would be outstanding in my opinion if that happened.
Sure.
I think I would be a little bit more I'd be a little more neutral if it was one of these other receivers, to be honest.
Here's what I got to see from this staff in this draft. I think all of us would agree with this one. We got to see them for once have a plan and get this line right.
Yeah.
They're not going to go anywhere as an organization
It's really tough.
It's hard to win games if you can't block.
You have to have an absolutely elite something else. Absolutely elite quarterback. Absolutely elite run game.
Right.
If you can't pass block, it's just really, really hard to win.
And they don't have that. They don't have an elite quarterback. They don't have an elite running back. They don't have elite wide receivers. They don't have an elite defense. They don't.
Right.
And I know everyone praises their defense last year, and there was a lot of positives of it, Danny. But let's keep in mind, when they went up against really good offenses, they got torched.
Right.
They got pushed around a lot. So to your point, you're right. If you don't have an offensive line, you don't have guys in the trenches, you got to be elite other places, and they simply are not.
Right. Yeah. So to wrap it all up, come back to what we were talking about, man. I just really hope they take an offensive lineman. I'll take any of them at this point. I'll talk myself into any of these guys that are in the first round discussion. Yeah. Gray Zabel, Kelvin Banks, any of these guys I'll be super excited for.
I want someone with their fat belly that hangs over their belt.
Yeah.
That's all I want.
Yeah. Just a guy
one
who's
of those
gonna,
guys.
just a glass eater, as they say.
Yes.
Just wants to go in there and chew on glass.
Just anybody, please.
Stick their face in the fan.
Yeah. Just guys that when they go to a Kraken game and they show them on the big screen, have like 3 beers in front of them, they chug it all down in like 10 seconds. That's who I want.
Strangely good at chugging beers.
Just unbelievable at it. Just, like down. That's who we need.
Yeah.
That's who the Seahawks need. That's who America needs. What did you make of I talked about this a little bit, before we had Jim Duquette on from MLB Network. This now Geno Smith, I felt disrespected.
I don't know. I don't really know how I feel about it, to be honest. I kind of go both ways. I think I understand where Geno's coming from for sure. It felt like the Seahawks were pretty wishy-washy on him. And, for what he had done and how he'd been able to kind of like, frankly, be better than Russell Wilson after they got rid of Russell Wilson. And to have the Seahawks be a little bit wishy-washy on him, I can kind of understand where he was coming from in terms of wanting that respect, wanting to be viewed by the team as like their starter, their guy, the guy that they want to build around, instead of kind of like what it ended up being, where they viewed him very much as like a good option for right now, but we don't really believe in you long term. The other thing is, I don't think we really know how these negotiations go. We don't know what kind of numbers they were throwing around at him. We don't know,
but he essentially
what they were saying to him.
He essentially, like, the point was that, hey, I felt disrespected because they didn't want to really commit to me long term.
Right.
Okay. Well, the Raiders didn't. That's I guess I don't get about it. Like, the Raiders literally can get out of it after 1 year. After 1 year, it's done. Yeah. He makes $40 million, and then it's like, because this, there's no way he's playing for $18.5 million in 26. Yeah. That's it. He's going to go back to him like, hey, I need more, especially if he has a good season. And they're going to be like, no, we're good.
And this is like a great example. I think Geno Smith in general is just a great example of like, it's a business, and a lot of teams ultimately at the end of the day have to like make the right decision, make the decisions for themselves. But these players, and especially Geno, his career has been all over the place, right?
It's crazy.
Originally was believed to be a super high first rounder, fell into the second round. Things didn't work out in New York. He was kind of vilified there. He was vilified with the Giants when he took over for Eli Manning and came in as a starter, and then just like everything that's happened in his career, I don't really blame him for having a massive chip on his shoulder. And honestly, it's probably why he's still going, why he's still in the league, why he was able to reignite his career, is because he has, real or imagined, just like a chip on his shoulder about certain things. It's like all these athletes always do this, where they're making, like, there's a famous Michael Jordan story where some rookie came in and was like, hey, good game, Mike, and he's like, what the fuck did you say to me?
No, you're right.
So it's like they have to kind of like do these things to have an enemy and have somebody like that's like pushing them, sort of a chip on their shoulder. I see this all the time. So like, honestly, I didn't think that much about it. I thought I understand from his point of view. I also think like it's a business. Like, they were going to give you a lot of money. Why are you saying that in an interview? But at the same time, I get it.
I say this all the time, and I've repeated it a lot. He's a great, I think, lesson and example for a lot of people not to quit.
Totally.
Not to quit on something.
100%.
And that guy did not quit. And he put his head down and he grinded. It's a great lesson. It's a great lesson for anyone to say, hey, just because it didn't work out, hey man, keep working and keep trying. It's for you. Once you realize you didn't quit when you realized that this Field Goals podcast wasn't going to work with me, and you said, I'm going to put my head down and I'm going to work, and look where it landed you.
Yeah, and
You're
remember
rubbing
at the time,
elbows with Bill Simmons now.
And at the time, I was telling all my friends that Jason Puckett just really doesn't respect me, and it really pisses me off.
All right, we'll continue to count down to the NFL draft next week with you, Danny. Appreciate it.
All right, sounds good, man.
There he is, Danny Kelly, Danny B. Kelly. You can follow old Danny there on social media at Danny B. Kelly on Twitter and Blue Sky. Senior staff writer, Ringer Fantasy Football Show, Ringer NFL Draft Show. Our NFL Draft coverage brought to you by Georgetown's new Tavern Beer, easy drinking domestic style lager made with Pacific Northwest barley and Yakima Valley hops, 4.2%, brewed by our good friends at Georgetown Brewery, makers of Manny's, Bodhisattva, and Rogers Pilsner. Let's talk all things sports, life, college athletics with the one and only John Canzano, brought to you by Zeke's Pizza, homegrown in the Northwest. Visit Zeke'sPizza.com. John Canzano, BFT, there on social media. Bald-Faced Truth down there in Portland, Oregon. 3 to 6 every single day. Joins us inside the Limbeck Lumber Studios. Hey, so, I mean, we usually don't talk a ton of NBA, but breaking news just happened. The Nuggets just cleaned house.
Yeah.
They fired Mike Malone. Did they just win the championship? What are they doing?
Season for all things, man. I would tell NBA coaches, you know, Don Draper said it on Mad Men. That's what the money's for, right? They are paying you not to stick around, but they're paying you for when they inconveniently and unfairly hand you a cardboard box and send you on your way. That's the reality, though, isn't it? Like, what have you done for me lately?
They just won a championship 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, he was 10 seasons as a coach. They were 471, 327. It's not like, I mean, they're maybe a little disappointing this year, but they're currently 4th place in the West.
Yeah, it's not a total disaster, but you know, I kind of feel like there's a management ownership exhaustion that happens with a coaching staff. Like we've all seen it. There's kind of like this season for all things, and we know that, you know, there's an art and a little bit of a science into ending an era and beginning an era. So I'm asking, you know, I'm looking around the league and I'm going, what do the Nuggets see here that has shifted? And are they looking at the best teams in the West and saying, hey, we don't line up anymore? Was there just, you know, an exhaustion that you tolerate with Mike Malone when he's winning you a championship, but when you're the 4th seed, you can't quite live with it? I don't know. I mean, I'll be curious to see what comes out of it. David Adelman, the son of Rick Adelman, getting the interim job. It'd be interesting to see that. You know, Portland kid who's now going to be running the show there.
I mean, think about it. They're only a game and a half out of the 3rd spot.
Yeah.
Imagine being like somewhat decent at your job, whatever you do, and they're like, hey, you're out. And it just tells me that maybe there's something else behind the scenes that we don't know about yet.
Well, but I mean, look, you know this, and I know this. Some of what makes us all good at our jobs also makes us a little bit intolerable as people. And so like you find like really good radio show hosts, they can grate on you when you're dealing with them, you know, in a sales meeting or whatever, you know, and an opinionated columnist, great for what you're doing out in the world, but not so good when you're the manager trying to manage that person. Like, I just think they're sometimes maybe what makes Mike Malone intense and great at his job, it might make him a little bit insufferable to deal with.
Hey, what's the deal with Chauncey Billups? Is he sticking around for another year or two?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. Blazers extended Joe Cronin, the general manager, gave him a multi-year extension yesterday. That news breaks yesterday. Chauncey's got 1 team option year left on his deal. Now, last summer, he did some interviews and basically said he didn't want to coach the team anymore. And I think any team that wasn't being led by a trustee would have said, hey, we'll negotiate you out of this deal. But the Blazers held him hostage. And then I think Chauncey didn't get the memo. Like they were supposed to be bad. And he was going to the mattresses, playing all his guys down the stretch, trying to win games because, you know, he got tired of losing. So they won like 14 more games than they did last year already. And so I think they're going to exercise his option. I think they're going to hold him hostage for 1 more year. Your fault, Chauncey. If you wanted to leave, you probably should have not won all those games, but they've got a very slim chance to get Cooper Flagg. It'll be like a 4% chance or a 6% chance at best. And they will probably run it back. And it tells me that the brain trust, Bert Cold and Jody, Bert is also with the Seahawks behind the scenes, and Jody as the trustee of the Seahawks. It tells me that they just kind of want to say, hey, status quo. They extended Joe Cronin. They will probably pick up that 1-year option on Chauncey and let him work as a lame duck. I'll bet you.
Where does the league want to place Cooper Flagg, you think?
Oh, man, that's a great question.
Where do you think they want him to go?
Ideally, I'd put him in New York. I'd put him in, somewhere like that, but I don't know. I think that's ideal. Like best case scenario, I'd put him in the biggest market possible, but you could stick him, I think, in any market. I think he really would work in Portland. I think Portland fans would love to have him, but I think he's such a complete player and a guy who plays so hard and so marketable. But if you are Adam Silver in your dream scenario, you tell me, put him in Phoenix.
Well, who's got the best? Is it Utah and Washington and Charlotte right now?
Yeah, 14% chance for those teams at the top, which really isn't a guarantee at all, right?
Yeah.
The Blazers in the year they got Greg Oden, they had a 5% chance, and they ended up with the number 1 pick. So I don't know. The conspiracy theories kind of went away with David Stern, but let's see if one comes back for Cooper Flagg. Wembanyama to the Spurs wasn't exactly a big market, but it was perfect for Greg Popovich and the Spurs.
Sure, of course it was. Well, yeah. I don't know if it's a conspiracy. the Sixers got a 10% chance to get him. Philly's good market.
Yeah,
maybe they're Brooklyn at 9%. Yeah.
I think he works anywhere, though. I think
for
the league, what you really want is you want to put him somewhere that the ideal thing would be, hey, expansion franchise, put him in Seattle, expansion franchise, put him in Vegas, boost one of those teams. I'm not pandering to your audience right now, but look, I think until that Adam Silver fixes that, like that was the biggest wrong of David Stern's era, taking the Sonics away from Seattle. Until he fixes that, the rest is window dressing for me. Like, get that fixed. Come
Absolutely. All right, what did we think of the national championship game tonight? I'm getting a sense you were lukewarm on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't like Todd Golden's reaction after the win, all about him and his backcourt and his front court and how great they were. And oh, by the way, is he going to be sliding into people's DMs now again? Or like he was a bit of a creeper, and Florida kind of swept that away. And then you cast him against Kelvin Sampson. That Houston team just played so hard, and there were such weird outcomes. Weren't those 2 games at the end so weird?
Yes.
Duke was better than Houston. Duke wins that game 7 or 8 times out of 10, and they somehow found a way to lose it. And Houston was better than Florida, and they probably win that game 6 or 7 times out of 10, and they found a way to blow a double-digit lead, both of them. But then one shining moment comes on, and we're all aware that fewer mid-majors than ever have been in this tournament, and I felt like one shining moment, the thing it missed was there's no Albany, there's no Davidson, there's no George Mason, it was blue bloods acting like they're underdogs with one shining moment playing in the background. And so to me, it kind of underscored the idea that the selection committee, put more of the mid-majors in. I don't need to see them in the Final Four. If they get there, great. But if they, but put them into the tournament and let them have a puncher's chance.
Yeah. But we agree on this one. When it gets to the Final Four, these games were fantastic.
Yeah, they were great.
Oh, they were great. I just think that this was a game last night that I heard some people say, God, it just wasn't a great game. And I thought, I don't know if some people need to have the game played in the 80s, maybe the 90s for it to be a great game. I watched that first half, and I thought that was probably the best defensive first half of a basketball game from both teams that I'd ever seen. It was fast. It was aggressive. Everybody was making plays. It was physical, but not to the point where the physicality crossed the line. And then what I was so disappointed in is that the officials just didn't allow it to happen in the second half. I don't know who they got talked to. Whether it's probably Golden at Florida that just was bitching at them. He said, "Hey, we need to clean this up," and then it just got tight. And then we lost the rhythm and we lost the physicality. There is in basketball, there is a beauty to physical basketball to a degree. I'm not talking Pistons and Knicks, and that's not what was playing last night. But you saw 2 teams, especially Houston, that got after you defensively.
Yeah,
and there's something cool about that.
Yeah, and I love the end of the game essentially ends on a loose ball, and we all saw the video of Houston on the loose ball drill, and it's the one loose ball they didn't get.
Great point.
And here is Florida dancing off, and I think the Final Four delivered. I thought there were good games. I just felt like the overall feel of the tournament, and we're all reminded when Bubba Cunningham gets up there and he's handing the trophy to Florida. Like I thought Bubba was going to go, hey, we're going to give this to UNC. Like, there was going to be a twist in the plot in the 11th hour. But I'm afraid that the Power Four is trying to run away with everything. We know that. And I want to see a little more wide open feel to the start of the tournament. And we have had these great opening round upsets in the past where some of the power conference teams mix it up with a Davidson or a Albany or a George Mason, and they get beat because they don't show up to play. Florida Atlantic, you don't show up to play. That's a pretty good team. They beat you. But those teams were not allowed into the field. There were only 8 teams that did not belong to a Power Four conference that made the field. And among the 8 were teams like UConn, Xavier. It was like some Big East teams that you probably would, there really were only 5 teams that weren't part of the Big East and the Power Four that got into the bracket. That's not right.
One thing that I don't like when I'm watching any sporting event is the guys that do play-by-play tweeting. It's just, and then so I have to get off of it because I don't need to know, hey, it's a gain of 4 yards there. It's 3rd down and 6. Yeah. Well, I'm watching the game. Like, I know.
Yeah.
What's worse than that is play-by-play tweeting of congressional hearings. And goddamn was my timeline. Every time I'd look, it just filled. Well, the senator said this about this and that. Yesterday was a big day up on Washington, the House settlement hearings. What can you just give me the Cliff Notes version of like what was going on?
Well, yeah, I mean they're just trying to figure out like roster limits. Will they be fluid or will they be transitioned? And will this settlement impact athletes 10 years from now? Is it fair to athletes 10 years from now? I've got an 8-year-old daughter. Let's say she becomes a women's soccer player at a school. This could impact her. Like they're trying to sort through all of that. And I think the bigger thing is this bureaucracy puts us in this money grab that it is, puts us all to sleep. Like nobody's finding this compelling. Nobody's finding this interesting. And in fact, I think the bigger stuff that's going on in Washington, D.C. is stuff like, you got, Representative Michael Baumgartner from the state of Washington there, who's writing this bill right now where he's going to propose that NIL dollars and media rights dollars within the conferences should be shared in the same way that the NFL pools their money. Like he wants to introduce legislation there and he wants presidential intervention. He's asking for President Trump to step in and appoint someone as the commissioner. Like that's the kind of stuff I'm into because I'm like, hey, that could be shape-shifting for the whole thing. And Baumgartner wants to use the federal financial aid money that goes to all these universities. It dwarfs the media rights monies. We're talking about billions of dollars. And say, hey, look, if you don't want to participate in this, cool, go form your own league. But if you want to be part of college sports, guess what? You're going to pool your media rights money. You're going to pool your NIL money. We're going to have a hard salary cap. Athletes at Washington State and Boise State will get the same amount of money as athletes at Alabama. It's interesting stuff, but I think this House stuff is coming. And then beyond that, I think you're going to see Congress get involved. I think, Baumgartner says he's got some support.
How realistic, though, what Senator Baumgartner wants? And for those who don't know, he's a WSU grad, Spokane.
Yep.
How realistic, though, what he wants will actually come to fruition?
It's hard to say because, you're going to need unilateral support for this. Like you're going to need, and to this point, what Democrats are saying in DC is they would like the athletes to unionize. And what Republicans are saying is, hey, we need to step in and we need to create an antitrust exemption, much like, let's just use the NBA as an example. LeBron James is worth what, $500 million to the NBA a year? Like, what is he worth? Put a number on it. He can't make that. Okay. It's not fair to LeBron. He has to kind of be part of this system that is a little bit socialist where he has to say, hey, I can only make 50 million. And, the rest of the league's players are going to get a share of the proceeds because we get an antitrust exemption. That's what they're trying to get done. I don't know if he'll get there, but I think he's doing some saber rattling right now, and I find it interesting.
All right, I want to switch gears. Of all the stuff, I mean, you write just everything that is fabulous. We got your Monday mailbag, your coverage of the Pac-12. I can sneak that in now. We have no news on the media deal, right? You and I have talked before, kind of April 15th. We've circled that kind of day. Yeah. If nothing happens, then maybe there should be some questions being asked. And right now, a week away, nothing.
Well, here's what I got. So I wrote that yesterday in the Monday mailbag. I said, somebody asked me, when should Pac-12 fans panic?
Mm-hmm.
And the panic date ultimately would be like end of June, because you have a July 1, 2026 hard date from the NCAA that says you have to add at least one more member. It takes about a year. You don't want to get inside of a year to onboard a school to your conference. So it takes about a year. And oh, by the way, on July 1 of 25, some of those exit fees go up for some of these schools and other conferences. So now you're paying more to get them. So I would say late June, you start to go, oh crap, something went wrong here.
Okay.
But I started backing up from that and going, okay, realistically, like I start to ask questions about April 15th. I start to, really start to think something's gone wrong. If you're like into May 1st, May 5th, and you don't have a deal yet and you're the Pac-12. And so I put that out in the mailbag. I heard from two different Pac-12 university campus sources, one this morning and one yesterday afternoon, who both said, thank you for putting the timeline out there because it helps people manage their expectations. I think they feel good about what they have in hand. I feel like a big part of their expansion plan is now tied to the settlement negotiations with the Mountain West. That tells me that UNLV is probably still in play. I was told the Pac-12 had re-engaged with UNLV at some point in the last couple of weeks. So that fits there. Maybe they're running that ground ball out before they move on to other things. Texas State's president, I got in touch with him last week. Kind of a character, tweeting about his bowl of soup, and he wants a full bowl of soup, not a half a bowl of soup.
It looked pretty full to me.
I think I like personality, so I didn't mind it. But I think he's definitely talking about media rights when he's saying he wants a full bowl of soup, even though he won't say he's talking about media rights. And from that standpoint, I view Texas State as a fallback. So I still think the plan for the Pac-12 is to go after UNLV, see if they can get him. Now, we know that, they got about 40, 45 days left to possibly negotiate a settlement with the Mountain West. And so I'm kind of wondering how much of the Pac-12's pause here is about running out that ground ball and seeing if UNLV has got the appetite for a little risk and a jump. And because, that's the school that makes sense geographically.
Yeah, absolutely. And John will be all over. Just follow him. Again, John Canzano, BFT. Read all of his work, johncanzano.com. If you're not a subscriber, go be a subscriber today. One of your latest stories just immediately grabbed my attention when it was dropped in my mailbox. And that's the thing I like is all your stories just come right to my email. And then I click on it. And it says, right away it got me, a boy, a boat, and a race against time. And you wrote this story about William Jaxson. He's been dealing with a genetic disorder. He needs a lot of money to have this experimental drug that he and his family need to get. They have started a fundraiser. You just caught something. I mean, I couldn't get through the thing without like crying at the end, especially when you're going into, one of your weekends of watching, your girls perform on the field and then music and and you had a line in there that it just really struck me because it's true for anyone that has kids. And you wrote in there, we would do anything for our children. And you're just 100% right. There's nothing that I wouldn't do for my kids. Nothing. And I think that's the same for every parent. For those who don't know the story of William Jaxson, just fill in our audience.
Yeah, I mean, he has Duchenne muscular dystrophy, and so he was diagnosed at age 3. So I've known about this kid for 3 years. He's 6 now. And his parents, it was a real fluke how they found out. He's got this genetic disorder. Most of us have a genetic code that goes like 1 to 79 and then repeats. Williams goes 1 to 20, then it goes back to 1, goes back to 20, then goes 21 to 79. For whatever reason, that's the hand that he got dealt. And so his muscles are an issue. Now, when you work out, Puck, or I work out, our muscles will break down and then they will regenerate. And the simple way to explain what happens with muscular dystrophy or this case of muscular dystrophy is that when Williams muscles break down, they don't repair. They don't rejuvenate. They become scar tissue. They become fatty tissue. And over time, kids that have this condition arrive at about age 20, and that's about their life expectancy. Most of those boys don't make it. And for whatever reason, genetically, they are mostly boys who have this condition. So his parents obviously are trying to do everything they could possibly do to make him comfortable. But pharmaceutical companies and insurance companies, they don't want to do experimental stuff and go do a bunch of research, because these Duchenne muscular dystrophy cases are all unique because they relate to the genetic code. No two are the same. And so even if you find something that works for little William, you can't apply it to the next kid, really, realistically. And so the insurance companies go, hey, why would we do something for one little boy? And my question back is, how can we not do something for one little boy? Like, we would all do this for our kids. And I watched my little 8-year-old run track on Saturday, and then she went to a lacrosse game, and I watched my 10-year-old do choir. And, I've got a college senior who is healthy and, going to her classes in her last term. And I'm just struck, like, any of us would do anything we could possibly do. But they have found a company that does some really advanced genetic work, and they want to do some gene therapy on William. The cost of it is $2.2 million. Like, wrap your head around that. If you came to you, Puck, and they said, hey, it's a chance we could give your child a better quality of life, maybe even save him. And maybe even they could see 30 or 40 years old instead of 20 and have it be a higher quality of life. $2.2 million is the price tag. They have to come up with $800,000 by May 1st. And so they feel helpless. And of course, they've created a fundraiser. We rowforwilliam.org is the website, because Dad is going to be rowing the Rogue River. They live in Medford, Oregon, Southern Oregon. Dad works at Southern Oregon University. Mom is the chief financial officer for the athletic department at Portland State. She works remotely. Dad is getting in a boat. He's going to row 157 miles of the Rogue River. And he's hoping people will donate or pledge and help out by sponsoring a mile, or by giving $50 or $100 or whatever they can give. I got to tell you, in the process of writing the column, I was adding the link that you're seeing right there. And I literally went like, hey, I need to make a donation. And because, why wouldn't we help one little boy? And he's 6 years old. They've got him a wheelchair because why? They don't want him walking and running around everywhere, because when his muscle tissue breaks down, that's it for that tissue. But he's trying to be a little kid. He's got friends. He plays video games. He's got a little brother who's 3 years old. It's heartbreaking. And at the same time, I think it sticks me in a place in my heart where I go, like, this is a real opportunity for a lot of us to get involved, help them out, give what you can, share it with other people, share this episode of Puck's, videocast podcast with friends, and say, hey, listen to this part about William. But, his dad and his mom, I reached out to her, and I know the story, and I wrote the column, and I was texting with her a little bit on Saturday morning, early Saturday morning, and then wrote the column on Sunday. She read the column on Sunday morning, and she was on a hike, and she said she was in tears at the top of her hike reading it. And I said to her, like, that's good, because that means that I captured his story, and I captured it in a way that, will resonate with people. And, again, these drug companies and these insurance companies are going to say, hey, it doesn't make any sense for us to help just one little kid. That's not our model. But for the real world, like, there's a real world application here. Why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we help one little kid?
Yeah, we're sharing it for the listening audience. We're sharing the website, wewillforwilliam.org. We'll post it out. We'll send it out on all the social media channels. You can sponsor a mile, as John just was talking about. He's going to do 157 miles on the Rogue River. You can sponsor a mile. You can just make a one-time donation. And I just think that what you wrote in there is like what wouldn't we do for our kids? And I think that's the ethos of that entire column. And I think for where they're at, I mean, because you do anything. I mean, 2 million, that wouldn't discourage anyone.
It made me, I posted that column, and then I blasted it on social media, and then I went and I left my workspace, and I went into the other part of the house, and the first person I encountered was my 10-year-old, and I just hugged her.
Yeah.
And, even last night, my college senior daughter wanted to go to a concert in downtown Portland. She's going to college in Corvallis. She's driving by herself to this concert. She's hanging out with her friends. She's driving back. You know what I was doing at like midnight, 12:30. I'm watching her on find my friends, go through the drive-through of McDonald's, and then make sure she gets home. Like, I'm tracking her all the way to her, where she's living in college, because that's what we do. That's what we do for our kids. So, maybe we can all help William, put our arms around him. And, I know the parents are just moved by the reaction that people have had. And for people, like, if you're in a position where you can't give, the best thing you can do is you can post this to social media. Post it to your social media. Do something. William's dad, Joe, is getting in this boat. He's going to row 157 miles, and he's going to do it nonstop. So it's 36 hours, no sleep. He's doing it. Why? Because he feels helpless. And it gives him a chance to go, I'm going to do something. I relate to that. Like, I would want to be like, let me fix this. And so I think we can all relate to that as parents.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a beautiful column. It's sad and beautiful at the same time, but important that you wrote it, and important for them to share. And again, we'll pump that up as much as we possibly can. We rowforwilliam.org is the website. You can donate any way you can, and like to John's point, you're right. If you can't, just share it. Share it on all your Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and maybe somebody will. People will help out, and I hope it works out for William. But
that's how you get. Like, I saw some exponential growth after writing the column. Like, his mom reached out and said, in the first hour there were like 35 people who donated, and I said, well, you need everyone to be sharing that, because that's where you get to 2.2 million pretty easily without it being painful for donors involved. And maybe there is somebody out there that can make a larger donation. I know the kid's favorite basketball player is Scoot Henderson, with the Blazers. Scoot, if you're watching this, you got a fan out there that needs you.
Sure. Beautiful. You do it all. And that's why we love having you on every single week. That's what you get when you sign up for JohnCanzano.com. Follow him on social media, John Canzano BFT. And again, he's with us every single week. You know what? I get excited when that email drops in my inbox.
Thanks.
I know it's something good every single time.
Thanks, Buck.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it. Talk to you next week. There he is, John Canzano, with us every single week. Again, John Canzano BFT. There on social media, and go support him. JohnCanzano.com. I think he's the finest American sports writer in the country, and I frankly just don't even think it's close. It's just because of stories like that. It's columns that he writes that are critical but thoughtful, but also investigative reporting. I just don't think there's anyone better in the business. And again, we rowforwilliam.org. I'll share it one more time for people who would like to go support this venture. We will for William.org. So it's beautiful. It's beautiful, and hopefully we can do a small part here at Puck Sports. And if you can, great. If you can't, just pass it along there to family and friends if you are able to do so. All right. Hey, I want to, real quick, I'm going to wrap up our NFL draft coverage. We had Dane Brugler on yesterday, and of course, Dane's part of our NFL Draft Countdown show and part of the Puck's Posse membership. As we're getting closer to the draft, I just opened up yesterday's Dane Brugler episode for everyone. So go to pucksports.com, which will take you to the Puck's Posse community page. The membership page, which is just patreon.com/pucksports. And but the easiest way to link to go there is just through Puck Sports. You can then watch and listen to Dane Brugler for free. Everyone has access to yesterday's show. I just decided to open it up for everyone today. Why? Because we had just a real good discussion about what the Seahawks should do at 18, and a real just good insight yesterday with Dane on why Gray Zabel is such a fit for Seattle. Just play a little bit of portion yesterday's show there with Dane Brugler, which, again, all of our NFL Draft Countdown coverage brought to you by Georgetown Brewery and their new Tavern Beer.
Could go in a lot of different ways, but I think it really starts with that interior offensive line spot.
From your evaluation with Zabel and Booker, who do you think it has the potential to be better in the program?
I think they're very different, and that's what makes it interesting with Seattle, because you see, okay, their offense and the way they want to be on offense, you're looking at more, zone and movement. And so I think when you look at it that way, you're going to want the better athlete, which is Gray Zabel. a guy that played left tackle at North Dakota State. You love the footwork. He played literally all four positions except for center. He had multiple starts at all four offensive line positions. And so, you feel good about, it's not a true, yes, he played mostly tackle, but it's not a true projection because you can throw on the tape and see him play guard. But awesome athlete, really balanced in the way he moves. He's on the fly. He looks really good. So balanced not only in his stance, but also on the move. He was not afraid to use his hands, stun, snatch defenders. He can move guys in the run game when he gets underneath them, uses his leverage, and he's just very consistent in pass pro. So I think that there's a reason we see Gray Zabel mocked to Seattle quite a bit. I think it makes sense. The player also makes sense with the fit. And that's not to say that Tyler Booker is not a good player. I just think the fit and what they like to do. Tyler Booker, you're looking for more of a pure gap scheme, power scheme, where it's not going to be as much movement as we expect to see from Seattle this year.
And again, that full episode, just go to pucksports.com. The link at the top to join Puck's Posse will take you there to the Puck's Posse page, in which you can watch and listen there to Dane Brugler from yesterday. Dane was great, just with all of his breakdowns. And you can also just watch the episode if you go to Puck Sports there on YouTube as well. But if you'd like to sign up for to become a Puck's Posse member, you get the early release there of Dane Brugler, Ryan Divish every week, the Sports Pit, all of the content that we've got up there at Puck Sports. Just go to pucksports.com. If you're streaming the show, watching it, that QR code will take you there as well. All right, we got Hey What the Puck, but before we get to Hey What the Puck, I really am having just kind of a odd hair day. It's just all over the place. Like I took a freaking blow dryer to the damn thing. We got to update you and just remind everyone, because the Masters a couple days away, but the Puck the Picker Majors pool is here. It's all brought to you by our coverage of the majors, our coverage of golf this year, all brought to you by, look at that, Synthetic Turf Northwest. Telling you, get rid of the mud, guys. Get rid of your lawn. No more water bills. Go get Synthetic Turf Northwest. They do custom turf installation, lawn installation. They put in a putting green like they put in a putting green in my backyard. Look at that thing. Huh? You wonder why I'm so damn good at golf. Why? Synthetic Turf Northwest. SyntheticTurfNorthwest.com, bringing you all of our golf coverage this summer, and of course part of our Puck the Picker Majors pool. And again, what is Puck the Picker Majors pool? Well, it is a season-long golf contest that we currently have going on right now, where you're going to pick two golfers in every single major, and starts with the Masters, which gets underway on Thursday. All of the information is up at pucksports.com as I'm sharing there on my video screen. And again, season-long golf contest. You're going to pick two golfers in every major. So starts with the Masters, then it's the PGA Championship, then it's the U.S. Open, and then it's the Open Championship. If you want to be a part of the season-long contest and win the grand prize, which is a trip to Gamble Sands Golf Course, a one-night stay, 2 rounds of golf at Gamble Sands for 2 people, you've got to get in right now. Not going to be able to get in later and say, well, I missed the Masters, I'll sign up for the PGA Championship, or I'll sign up for the Open Championship. Right now, the contest designed, I'm just encouraging, this could change, but I'm encouraging everyone to get in now. Why? Because it gives you the best opportunity to win the trip. It's odds. If you pick all the 8 golfers and have a chance 8 times to win is better than 6 times or 4 times. So get in your picks now. Go to pucksports.com. Look at the second place prize. It's not a sleeve of golf balls, I'll tell you that. It's a foursome at Fairwood Golf and Country Club. Third place, again, not a sleeve of golf balls. It's a foursome at Mill Creek Country Club. And fourth place, a foursome at one of Troon's premier Seattle golf courses, West Seattle, Jaxson, and Bill Wright. Also a 1-hour Top Tracer range session at Interbay, Jaxson, or Bill Wright. Again, Bill Wright, for those who don't know, that's formerly Jefferson Park Golf Course. All right? Go to pucksports.com, sign up, Puck the Picker, or Pitcher, if we did a baseball contest. Majors golf pool is up and running. And tomorrow, We'll get a Masters breakdown with Travis Fulton, who is a former golf instructor, analyst for the Golf Channel. He now hosts the Stripe Show podcast. He's a golf instructor in Florida. You can visit his website, travisfultongolf.com. He's got a YouTube channel, Travis Fulton Golf. You know what he wants? And you can send this to me. If you would like Travis to analyze your golf swing, send me a video of your golf swing. So you got to be that guy at the range, okay, and tape your golf swing. Send me a video, and we'll post it. And I will pick a couple of you. I'm going to pick one. I'm going to pick one of you that on the show tomorrow, when he joins us live, I'll have him analyze one of your golf swings. So if you want your golf swing analyzed, send me a video. Puck@pucksports.com. And I'll have Travis break down your golf swing. He's going to join us every Wednesday before every major, by the way, including tomorrow. It's all brought to you by Synthetic Turf Northwest. Tired of those money backyards, cost of watering your lawn? Synthetic Turf Northwest is pet friendly. They do synthetic lawn installation, custom turf installation, and of course they will put in a green for you, just like they did in my backyard. SyntheticTurfNorthwest.com. All right, go to PuckSports.com. Sign up today. Puck the Picker Majors Pool. All right, let's wrap up the show here on a Tuesday with Hey, What the Puck? Of course, brought to you by Restoration1.com of North Seattle. It's your restoration company that lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, and mold damage with their property restoration services. Locally owned and operated. Make them your first call when those damages affect your residential or commercial property. Restoration1.com, the North Seattle franchise. I just want to piggyback on John's column, what he wrote there, and we talked about William Jaxson, who's dealing with that disorder. What really just stuck with me is we will do anything for our children. And again, we will for William.org. I'll post a website. We'll promote it as much as we can. But that one really tugged at me in reading that last night. And just because we would. If we have kids, we'll do anything for them. I had a moment with my son this weekend where, again, it's always a dicey situation when you're dad and coach. And you try to separate the two. But it's hard, and anyone that's ever coached their kids in anything knows that you can't just truly separate being dad and coach. You can't. As much as we all say we want to, and it's a nice thing to say, no, when I'm at the games or when I'm at practice, I'm coach, I'm not dad. But when I watched, my kid had not pitched. There's two things. There was a pro and a con from this past weekend. When he hadn't pitched in a few weeks. He was his arm was sore after playing a bunch of baseball. And so we shut him down. We said, well, no, we're not risking anything. We shut you down. Saw a doctor, everything checked out. He had to do a bunch of exercises and rest more than anything. And so, but it was getting better. And so this past weekend, this was the first time he had built up a little bit to it, a number of like little bullpen pitches we had thrown for him during practice. But this was his moment. He was gonna start for the very first time this season. He's a real good pitcher. And I was excited to see him pitch, excited to see him compete, and crossing my fingers that everything was going to be okay. But as I'm watching him get through 2 innings, throw 35 pitches, great. Gives up 1 hit, 1 run. Perfect. Strikes out 3, fantastic. I'm happy as a coach, but more happy as a dad because it's my kid, and you'll do anything for your kids, and you'll protect your kids. And then, we had a moment later in the game where he made a couple of errors, and then that where you cross a little bit of I'm a coach and need to be more uplifting and saying, hey, all right, it's okay, it's just one mistake. But then comes, it morphs a little bit with dad of being like, what are you doing? Come on, that's a routine play you need to make. And I found myself, and I think anybody can learn and grow as a parent, as a coach, as a person. And I found myself how I was talking to him and interacting with him was wrong. And I told him afterwards, and I just said, I don't need to treat you any differently in this moment than I would treat anybody else. And that's wrong. And so, but it was a hard lesson for me to learn, but a good lesson at the same time. Just, circling back to what John wrote, up at johncanzano.com. We'll do anything for our children. We do. I do anything for my kids. You're watching and listening. There's not anything that you would do that you wouldn't do for your kids. And so, when we see this story that he wrote about William Jaxson and now, dealing with this disorder that he's dealing with and having to raise this amount of money, which is just, mind-boggling. $800,000 by, I think, was it May 5th or May 1st that he has to raise, and, nearly $2.2 million. I don't know if we'll get there. I don't know if he'll get there, but I think we should try as hard as we possibly can. So wewillforwilliam.org is the website. Wewillforwilliam.org is the website. If you can. If you can't, obviously everybody understands. But, pass it along to as many people as you can. All right, that's it for us today on Hey, What the Puck. Again, brought to you by Restoration One of North Seattle. Your restoration company lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, mold damage with their property restoration services. Locally owned and operated, making your first call when damages affect your residential or commercial property. 206-817-8917. Visit them online at restoration1.com. North Seattle franchise. Again, get those Puck the Picker major pool picks in now. Go to pucksports.com and sign up today. All right, big thanks to everybody watching and listening today. Thank you to all our sponsors, Limback Lumber, Zeke's Pizza, Georgetown Brewery. Check out their new tavern beer when you can at your local bar, and, of course, up at georgetownbeer.com. And, of course, big thanks, as always, to Restoration One. Today's Daily Puck Drop up on YouTube. Please subscribe to the channel. Also, find the Daily Puck Drop on all your favorite podcast platforms, and, of course, always up at pucksports.com. When you're there, sign up to become a member of the Pucks Posse. $5 a month. That's all it costs. You support all the free content, VIP, and exclusive content we put up there as well, like our baseball coverage with Ryan Divish of the Seattle Times, and also our NFL draft coverage with Dane Brugler of The Athletic, and our brand new podcast, The Sports Pit, with Steve Sandmeyer and Matt Stretch Johnson. Check it all out there at pucksports.com. That's it for us today. Appreciate everybody following and listening along, watching, and all of it. Pass it along to your friends. We'll talk to you tomorrow. As always, promise to be better.
No shoes, no ties.
Would anybody like to smoke some pot?
Yeah.
I was born to love you. I was born to lick your face. I was born to rub you. But you were born to rub me first.
What do you need my address for?
We'd like to send out a mailer.
Mother of mercy, I don't speak Japanese!